Do you find responsibilities in work, family, and health too overwhelming to handle? Welcome to Health, Wealth, and Relationships, Thriving in the Balancing Act. Join physical therapist and relationship consultant Dr. Gina Williams in building stronger connections, advancing your career, and elevating your overall well-being. Here you'll find practical tips, inspiring stories, and actionable strategies for living a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Health, Wealth, Relationships, Thriving in the Balancing Act. I am Dr. Gina Williams, owner of Mobility Health Physical Therapy, a physical therapy company that's based in Midtown Manhattan. So if you're in Midtown, you can come to our clinic and get physical therapy treatment, one-on-one, 1-hour care, or we can come to your home if you live in Manhattan, and we do telehealth physical therapy in many of the states in the United States. So you can just be in your living room and have treatment from us online. I'm very excited for today's podcast guest. I have my dear friend, Aviva Maller. She is one of my friends for several years. I think, is it 9 years now?
Easily. No, yeah, you know what? It's probably 9 years.
No, I think actually more than I've known my husband.
Oh, boy.
Because I've known him 9 years, so maybe
Don't
more.
tell him.
Aviva has lived in Stamford, Connecticut on and off for about 40 years. Very close to New York, is dear to her heart, as well as Israel. She calls them both home. She was born in Bombay, India, and came to America when she was just 13 years old with her 2 brothers and her parents. Aviva is most well known for her photography and event planning, bringing the magic and meaning to bar mitzvahs, weddings, and nonprofit events. She also helps her family's nonprofit biodegradable paper bag business. As such, she's never had any downtime, constantly working towards the next project. She enjoys entertaining, and one of her passions is cooking. She has a large extended family that is spread out all over the world, and inspired by her rich background, she loves to cook the foods of India, her birthplace, as well as Iraq, the home of her ancestors. She volunteers for many nonprofit organizations in town. The names are too numerous to mention. She puts all her talents to use: photography, event planning, and even catering. On the subject of cooking and entertaining, Aviva's dream is to one day open a small restaurant on the beach where there will always be live music, a warm ambiance, and food that she cooks with a varying menu. You come, you relax, eat, whatever is your daily inspiration. And it's about food that feeds the belly and the heart. It's about the food with flavor and love. Aviva's married to her husband, Michael, and they've raised 2 wonderful sons, Zachary, who's 31, and Jacob, who's 29. Welcome, Aviva, to the podcast. And if anyone's looking for this podcast, it'll live on mobilityhealthpt.com. You can check out the website for Aviva and Dr. Gina's chat. And Aviva, welcome to the podcast. Thank you again for coming. And I usually like to start the podcast with introducing the guest and having you tell the story of how we met.
That's great. Thank you so much for having me, Gina. How did we meet? We met with you taking care of me and making me feel a lot better. And I can't even remember if it was my shoulder or my knee at the time. Probably you've taken care of both. But most importantly, after that, about little under 8 years ago, taking care of my son so beautifully after a terrible motorcycle accident. And after that, we became friends. And I was disappointed you weren't in Stamford anymore, but I knew that you were just a phone call away, or maybe even a something away if I ever needed you.
Yes, I mean, I remember it very clearly. Actually, it was your left shoulder, and then you were working out in the gym, and something happened unusual to your normal feeling, and you'd rested, and it wouldn't go away. And then you came in. You were very specific and exact about what was going on and how your body moved and what you needed to change and your goals. And I love that. And we just connected right away. And we just we worked in the physical therapy, but we talked about so many different things. I learned so much from you, and your personality is so infectious. And so that's why we're still friends today.
Actually, the funny thing is I was riding my bike, as I do every day, and I got like this little twinge in my shoulder, and I said, I wonder, is this the shoulder that Gina fixed, or that the shoulder folder that she picks. And it's what really astounded me is how it's better, like how it stayed better. And, with all your coaching, as far as after our treatment, our official treatment went, I knew that I could always count on you to advise me and send me another little sheet of like, this is what you need to do if you want to be better. So
My pleasure. That's the goal. It's not to have you come forever. It's to give you the tools to heal and be well, and then, live your life, pain-free.
exactly.
All right. So now I have some questions for you. How do you manage and stay so energized and healthy despite your demanding schedule?
So that's a very good question. And I think that the part that's demanding is the part that keeps me alive. The fact that, for example, today, I didn't have a shoot this weekend. I didn't have to work on photographs. I had a couple of proposals to do, but I'm constantly working towards the next thing. So right now I have 2, maybe 3 events that are critical to work on. And you can't, even though one of them is in December, you need to plan so early on to make it perfect, to make it magical, to make it meaningful, constantly working with different people to bring their expertise to bear. So it's not just about me. It's not just about me on a computer, doing my own research. It's about how I can bring other people in. And that's what energizes me. Having, whether it's a designer or a florist or even a balloon maker, not saying, oh, this is exactly what I want, but here's what I'm looking for. Do you have any ideas? And it makes me feel energized from that, and makes me feel like empowered because of their knowledge adds to whatever it is that I have. And I always feel very, very open, so that, I can be engaged for the betterment of my clients and for me in general, like whether it's looking at a recipe and seeing, wow, I can put that to work, not just for my kitchen, but to call up a caterer and say, you know what, I want to try this at the next event. Let's try it because it seems very innovative. And that's professionally, what keeps me engaged and enthusiastic and energetic. But personally, I feel like I always have to keep moving. So I start the day with moving. Well, actually, I start the day sitting. I sit and I watch the sunrise or the waves, whether it's raining or snowing or just gorgeous out. So I sit and contemplate and think about the week ahead, and check emails and see who needs me. But basically, it's a quiet time for me. Some people know where to get me, and some people I don't need to be found for. And then after that, I say, okay, time to move move your body. And I take a bike ride for anywhere from 6 to 10 miles. Again, being energized not just by the bike ride itself, but by the environment, which is also at the beach, and by the people who are passing by. So if I miss, for example, a week because I'm away, which I never am, the next time I go, it's the good mornings will be followed by, where have you been? Are you okay? What are you doing? So it's the people, when I'm on the phone with somebody on the bike and they say, do you have to say hello to every single person? Good morning. And I say, well, yeah. And that's what gives me energy.
Oh, what an amazing way to start your day and feel energized and move. And definitely I know that's true because I've called you on some of those bike rides and those sunset times because I'm an early bird too. And I love to start my day with some meditation and movement, and it makes the rest of my day perfect no matter how it goes.
Absolutely. If I don't have, sometimes I do have to work, like drive to Hartford for an event, and that means I miss my early morning ride. There's something missing, and something you can't really recover by saying, oh, I'll ride at 6 o'clock in the evening or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I think it's the morning, like it's better than coffee.
I agree. For me too. So how does your role in cooking help you maintain your mental and physical health?
So I find that when I don't cook, I'm just, grabbing things to eat randomly. And when I plan to cook, and I don't mean plan in a very strict, regimented way, I just mean plan in a creative way. I think that cooking brings me closer to who I am, which makes me healthier from the inside as well as mentally, spiritually. For example, if I'm cooking a curry, I know that curry recipe came from either my aunt, my auntie or my grandmother or whatever it is. And then along the way, there are days where you cook the recipe the way you've cooked it for years. And then sometimes you meet somebody else who's from India or not even from India. Somebody says, you know what, I have these little cubes of curry. I'm like, I've never heard of that. But I'll listen and I'll infuse my recipes with something new. And it's fun. It just, cooking, the most important thing about cooking is I just can't cook for myself. Yeah. That's the dilemma. Since the kids have gone, pretty much. I mean, I love cooking for them, but when they're not around, it's just not as much fun. So I find another way to share my food. And whether it's with my mom, who today just wants chicken soup and rice, or my friends who I've started a little cooking group where we cook. We try to cook once a week, but it mostly happens twice a month or maybe once a month. And sharing. So every time I make something here, so I have a vegan friend and a kosher friend and a non-kosher friend who will eat anything, but I'll make some curry and I'll make a vegan version for the vegan friend and I'll make some chicken for the rest of the people who will eat chicken. And it just makes me feel good to feed other people. I think no matter what you cook, when you feed other people, you're feeding yourself.
Yeah, I feel the same way. It's hard to cook for one person. I mean, even sometimes when I'm single, I make something, but it's a big meal. And then I'd phone a couple of my friends, hey, you home? Did you eat lunch yet? I'm going to drive over and make, give you some lunch. You're like, why? Why not? I have all this food. I can't eat it myself. I don't want to.
It's one of the things I actually admired about my mother-in-law, who actually lives with me and has her own kitchen, is that she would take care of herself. She would, I'd just have a piece of toast and tea or something and run. She'll make herself an omelet. She'll put spinach in it and she'll put tomatoes in it and a piece of cheese in it. And it looks beautiful on a plate and it's just for her. And I admire that because it makes you feel so much better, so I have to learn to do that a little more often.
Yes.
It's always about feeding other people. And that's where I feel the best. Oh, let me tell you something, since you do know my son, Zachary, when he was a little boy and I used to make him eggs or whatever I made him, and he would ask for more and he was speaking, just barely speaking. It was like the first words. And he'd say to me with the eggs, I mean, imagine scrambled eggs, Mommy makes food with flavor. And I have used that sometimes as a hashtag because I can never get the way he said it out of my head. And that's what I always want to do, is the flavor, the love, and to express that with food is special.
Amazing. And so how do you balance, your love for cooking, you're working in the family business, your event planning, and you're taking care of yourself? Where do you find that middle ground?
I think probably all these years, I've been in a race with myself. And as I have matured in the way that I've thought, and also with the friends that I have who have brought me certain kinds of clarity, I have found ways to slow down. And it's not necessarily, bringing myself to a halt in any way, but just these gentle reminders that, wait a minute, if I don't take care of me, how could I take care of anyone else? So then I take that to another level and say, oh, I just re-met a friend of mine from high school who is doing tapping. And I'm like, let me look at her tapping. What is she doing with that tapping? And then I talked to another friend. Did you know that Kim is doing tapping? And I'm like, no, that sounds kind of weird, but okay, let's try it. And all of a sudden, that watching her doing a tapping on YouTube turned into going into the salt cave once a month with her doing something that I cannot even really describe other than to say she's taking me to a place where I can totally shut down and get all the clarity I need about the things I need to accomplish. And if that's not what a self-love is, I don't know what is, because I walk out of there empowered, that I can do anything, because one of her key goals is to help you manifest what it is that you want. And I never put the word manifest and me in the same place. I just grab life in a different way, but this way I think about it first and say, no, this is where I need to go. It helps professionally too, with self-confidence, which is something that, despite my success in my own way with my, business, I undervalue myself because I'm a woman, and that's what we've been taught to do for so long. And I think that having this self-care, this tutoring, if you will, of who you are and who you can be has been incredible for developing me, even at the age that I am. It's never too late, I guess. Yes. I guess it's never too late.
Never is.
And it makes me think of the things that, I can do. Like this August was rather quiet, business-wise. And I said to myself, oh my goodness, I don't have that many business inquiries. And, I'm working on stuff that is coming later in the year. So it concerns you, and you say, well, is something wrong? And then you have to remind yourself that last August you were away. So naturally, you took August off because it was a quiet, dead time, not just for you, but for everyone. Yeah. So now I have to kind of grab all the Augusts and say, oh no, let me go and see that friend I haven't seen for a while, like you. And, just take that time to replenish me.
Amazing. So you've talked a little bit about how you start your morning and monthly things you do to recharge. How about in the daily, in the nighttime, like winding down after a long day? Anything you do in that way?
Not really. I think that I'm the type of person, although I'm trying to change that works to a fervor until I can't. And that is part of what my visits to the salt cave have helped me do. And actually, one of the things that I have changed about my nighttime routine is not relying on a television and to actually listen to that quiet noise when I get into bed. And that's a good thing. That's something that is pretty much a big change for me, because you just automatically walk into the room and click, and you've got all this noise and all this company, and it really is just noise unless you're involved with something. And I think that silence has been great, and music. And that's another thing. Music is huge for me, and I try very hard to go and listen to live music with a friend, even by myself. And it's not just enjoying music for music's sake, but again, it's all of the things that I do that push back into me what is possible. For example, I hired a musician that I saw that was playing out in one of the nights, and I hired him alone, just playing his piano. Actually, he plays piano and guitar, and for a small event. And everybody loved him, and nobody really knew who he was. And they'd say, "You sure about this?" And I'm like, "You have to trust me." So also by doing that, by saying you have to trust me, I'm also saying I trust myself. So fast forward to this event that I'm doing in December. It's a wedding. And I realized that this guy can do everything that they need without a lot of fanfare, not alone, as a band, and that it's about matching people. And I love matching people, even if it's for employment or whatever it is. It's like somebody's having an event and they just need servers. Well, it's not just about somebody who wants to make X amount an hour and, serve people food and clean up after. It's about whether that person is right for them. And that's something I think I intuitively know, whether that music is right for that client, for that wedding, whether, just it's kind of exciting when you say, somebody calls you and says, and it's not even someone on your daily, it's daily, but radar. I'm moving out of this job and I need some help. And why are they coming to me? I'm an event planner and a photographer. Why? Because they know that I have met so many people along the way and that I can guide them. And then all of a sudden you find success and you're able to put them somewhere where they belong and where they feel valued. And for me, that's a great thing. I don't know how I got to that from winding down and at the end of a day, but I think the truth is that my mind races so much that at the end of the day, I have to recap that and then let it go. And it's all good, actually.
It is all good because this is directly related to the question I had to ask you next, and about what's rewarding about being an entrepreneur and in your creative or your business part. And so tell me another one, since you already spoke about connecting people.
I think the things that I do differently, remember, I don't know if you remember when Apple first came out and they used to have this tagline called "Think Different."
Yes.
And I think that that's who I am. And my event planning, it's funny because when I started my photography business years and years ago, nobody was doing capturing, moments, creating memories. And now it's like all over the place. So that's photography. And then the event planning it works hand in hand in many ways, because when you're a photographer, you see the whole event and you know what events need to make it better. So the photography makes you better at creating events. And my event tagline says, magical and meaningful events. And I've told clients, maybe I even lost a couple because maybe it seemed too, I don't know, crazy, that if I can't do something with meaning, I don't really want to do it. I really don't. So whether I'm creating a postcard for an event or whether I'm doing a wedding, I want to do what is meaningful to the person who has hired me to do something. And I might actually bring to light something they never thought of before. And that's how I operate. That's really the way I see things. So I have this group, as I mentioned before, of friends who gather to cook together. And they kind of, I can cook, but the guy in the group, he's great in the kitchen. Somebody else is great at prepping and cleaning up. The other one's house is the one who's hosting it, and she's unbelievable. I thought I was good at making lists for food. Who needs to get what and what are we making? And then they make fun of me because I show up with a box. And in the box, because it's not my house, there's tablecloths, there's if we're doing a Mexican night, there are orange margarita cups. You set the stage for how you want to feel. And it's not vacuous. It's really meaningful, because then you put yourself in a moment that wouldn't have been there without you.
Wow.
I don't know how
Yes.
better to say that.
Yeah, that sounds so perfect, and that is exactly you. So, what advice would you have for an entrepreneur trying to grow their own business and still manage their creative passions?
So a few young people have asked me, how can they break into the photography business? And I think, the answer I've always had is never stop taking pictures
Mm.
and never stop interacting with the people who are your subjects. Because there are a lot of photographers. Yes, a documentary photographer who's on the street is taking you walking with your kids, the three of you, and you don't have any interaction with them. That's different. But when you're doing an event, if you don't interact with that person, they're not going to be comfortable with you. They're not going to feel like, oh, I can say anything or be myself. I'm it's drawing people together. It's waiting for something to happen or making it happen.
Mm.
So you sometimes have to do both at the same time. For example, there was a mother feeding her baby. She was my client. She needed to be with the rest of the family with the baby to have that family photo. So what do? Wait? Stand at the wall and wait? No, you don't. You capture that mother with the baby. You go to the grandfather, the father, and ask them about their lives and capture them talking until the two get together and you can finish your work. Because it's not about waiting, it's about creating. So I tell people, take the pictures, take them for free. I did. I still do. I still take thousands of photos for free. And if it's the right environment, you gain more than what you give.
Wow.
And that's what you hope for. So you take those pictures and you prove to whoever it is you want to prove to. In photography, it's sort of easy because you create a portfolio of the things that you are proud of. So then you can go and say, hey, this is what I do. In events, sure, you have photos of events, but it's a little different. But for photography, just shoot. Just shoot, talk to people, open them up, grab a kid while something's going on. Use your bangles to make them happy and go for it. Just do anything that reveals who you are to them so they can reveal who they are to you.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you do want to capture, it's those little moments that usually sometimes make great photography, the unexpected, the non-staged moments that are captured that are, like when you look, they're so beautiful. And yes, your pictures are so magical. I remember a picture that you took of Zachary at a wedding. I think it was Istanbul. And
no, it was it was in Spain. It
was in
was
Spain.
yes, Mallorca.
It was so amazing. He was midair jumping and the light hit him just right. It looked magical. He might as well have like a magic carpet under him. It just looked so beautiful. You're so creative. I love it. So were there any challenges that you faced in your career and how did you overcome it?
How to price your work. Your work still is. In fact, maybe even more so today than before. Raising your prices for people who have used you before. Some of them it's easy and some of them it's not so easy. And then just starting off with what you think is higher only because you haven't been at that rate for ever. And you say, oh my God, am I worth it? And it's very hard to kind of illustrate to people what they're getting until they are there. So much easier to get a client who's seen you in action than it is, blind, if you will.
Yes.
So that is a challenge. Undercutting your own self is probably my biggest, hurdle.
And how do you
Stop it. You're worth it.
process?
You know,
Yeah,
people
yes.
say that, but it's still hard to, whew, when you write that proposal and you say, oh my goodness, is this going to be too much? And of course, at the end of the day, you also have to know your client or your prospective client. And I never charge based on the value of my client's net worth, for example. I don't know half of them, but I always have an opening for somebody who I think would be better off with me than with anybody else.
Mm.
So you deserve to have me take your pictures.
Wow.
You know, so it's difficult to explain that, but I get very upset if somebody says, oh, well, I can't afford you. I'm going to do something else. I mean, it's happened.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they shouldn't have asked in the first place, you know. But there are many people who might be okay with the person I've just been telling go take pictures for free, you know.
Yeah.
It's fine. But it sometimes does, when you're so personally invested in the product because the product is you, then it's much harder. And, you know, if I was selling coffee, it would be okay if somebody didn't want to buy my coffee, but I'm selling, and that's very hard for me.
Yeah, it's the non-tangible, creative part of things. That makes sense. But pricing, I mean, I think it spans for most entrepreneurs. It definitely something that we go back and forth with our pricing, our worth, trying to let our customer understand our value and what they're getting before they actually receive it. I mean,
Correct.
on the opposing end, a previous client, they already know what they're getting, and it would be no issue for for them to put a value and understand the pricing. So many of us go back and forth with so many of those things.
Yes, and then of course the world has changed because
Yes.
not all my clients are private individuals or families. You know, whether I work for a non-for-profit or some non-for-profit kind of borderline on corporate, and when they would get someone taking them up to a different level, they say, you know what, let's bid out this job. Well, I don't know. It's not about price. Either you want me or you don't.
You don't.
You know, so on paper, it looks like, hey, let's bid out this job, and that's the way we do it in the governmental world. You know, that's how that. You know, if we're bidding on bags, yes, which is what the family business is, right? Very small margins. They're like, no, it doesn't matter whether we like you or not. It's not important. We need to know what the price is. With photography, with event planning, it's really, price is kind of secondary to who you're getting to manage your entire event.
And that memory, it will last forever of that event, and it's so important.
Oh, absolutely. So a lot of times the unexpected happens at many different events. I'm at a gala, it's a nonprofit, and there's a very sweet man, and he's listening to the speaker, and he puts his arms on the back of the chair, and he's just looking. And I pass by and I snap it. And that's the photo that is forever gifted to his children when he dies.
Yeah.
And he did pass away. And on the funeral day, I made 3 copies for his 3 kids, and I gave it to them. And it is on their mantelpiece. So you never know when something you do in an instant is going to benefit someone for the rest of their lives. How long is that photo of the beautiful kids that you have that someone snapped going to stay in your possession? Forever.
Forever, yes.
So it's not coffee. You can't just drink it and go.
Yeah.
It's humanity.
Amazing. So you talk about this restaurant by the beach with live music and amazing food. How does that fit into your life right now? How far along are you from that goal?
Oh, so far.
Any steps that you're putting in place to get closer?
So maybe not necessarily, well, I drive to the beach every day. The beach is 20 minutes away from home. That's an hour back and forth, right? It's crazy. Not back and, yeah, back and forth. It's crazy. So maybe I can't afford a house by the beach, even though my dream initially was for some tiny little shack. But as we all know, COVID has changed everything in the surrounding areas of Manhattan, certainly, and everywhere, frankly. I mean, my friends who moved to Charlotte, like, were buying mansions for the price of a shack here and no longer can do that. So life has changed drastically. So maybe I have to create that in small pieces here. So I have a deck and I have a garden that, I can pick my cherry tomatoes from. And what I have to do, which I haven't really done, is I did it in small pieces. Have friends over. Just have the friends over and cook for them and set the table. Because setting the table makes people feel wanted. And that's what I love most of all. I've done it for my family. Sometimes you have to host an event because you have to host an event. So do it with all the love you can. So my food has never been vegan food traditionally. All of a sudden I have, 35, 40 people coming to a lunch at my house. Half of them are vegan and you go, what are you going to do? And all of a sudden you have a table of vegan food and a table of regular food and you make everybody feel like they can eat anything, so and you set the stage. So it's the deck, it's outside. Thankfully it's June. And you make sure that everybody has not a place at a table in a formal way like you would for Thanksgiving or a holiday, but bring out all the little plastic Adirondack chairs, clean them out, and make people feel like they have a place to hang out, and those are the little ways that I can have that final dream. I don't know if I'm not going to say it'll never happen. As my friend Kim says, manifest it, make it.
Yes.
So maybe it'll happen in a different way, but these are the small ways to do it. So bring your friends who play music and have them play while you feed them.
That piano player, bring him on.
Well, he's great, but I have a lot of friends who play music. Friends who I've encouraged to, during their sad times, to just get back into it and play, which is also something that I feel like has been my mission in life, is to lift people up.
Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much, Aviva, for being a guest on my show. It's been amazing. A pleasure.
You made me say things I wasn't even thinking of.
It was right on target. You're an amazing person to speak with. Thank you. And if anyone's looking for this episode in its entirety, it's going to be on mobilityhealthpt.com. Tune in next time for the next podcast, everyone. Thank you, Aviva. A pleasure.
Thank you, Gina. Bye.
That's all for this episode. May this discussion full of actionable tips and valuable advice guide you towards better possibilities in your personal and professional life. Continue your journey of unlocking your fullest potential by listening to more episodes of the podcast at mobilityhealthpt.com. Achieving stronger relationships, securing a thriving career, and embracing a healthier lifestyle may be daunting at first, but it is not impossible. You have the power to unleash the best version of you today. Until next time.